too many kids dying from the gun violence.
Tonight, your concerns.
Pay more attention to the city.
Your issues.
There's no low-income housing for the residents of Philadelphia.
Your city.
The asbestos in schools, Kennington, the guns, it's a mess.
I think there is room for improvement.
The future of Philadelphia.
It just takes people to come together and just sit down and think rationally and logically with some sense.
You decide. It's the Democratic primary debate. We are live tonight at Temple University's Performing Arts Center for the first Democratic mayoral debate. All eyes on this stage where 7 candidates vie for your vote. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Temple Performing Arts Center and Fox 29 You Decide Philadelphia's next mayor special. We are so pleased and honored to bring you this Democratic primary debate in what could be the most consequential mayoral election of our lifetime. I'm Jason Martinez. Thanks for joining us. We are so excited for what's to come and what is on this stage tonight. Now, 7 of the most active candidates on the Democratic side of the ticket are here with us tonight. Many of them have held office in city government. You may have recognized some of their names, of course, come from a variety of backgrounds. They have actually been participating in dozens of forums for months now, but tonight they get a chance to debate and try to stand out before voters cast their ballots for the Democratic primary, which is coming up on May 16th in just a few weeks from right now. The winner of that primary, of course, will go ahead and go to the general election coming up in November. And we want to thank Temple University for hosting tonight's debate in this beautiful Performing Arts Center. If we're going to be inside, this is the place to be, even on a wonderful weather night like tonight. So joining me on the stage tonight, Fox 29 anchor Sheba Russell leads our panel, which includes Fox 29 anchor Thomas Drayton and senior reporter Jeff Cole. We'll also hear from reporter Shawnette Wilson, who's standing by with us, and she's with members of the Temple community, Temple University, as well as the North Philadelphia community. They will ask questions of the candidates tonight as well. That's coming up in just a little bit. Now, it is certainly a crowded field here with 7 of the most active candidates with us tonight. Joining us, they are all vying to be Philadelphia's 100th mayor. Now, candidates will face a variety of questions on topics that are very important to Philadelphia voters. We're going to try to cover as much as we can tonight. And let's meet the candidates. From left to right, Sherelle Parker, former city council member and state representative. Derek Green, former city council member. Jeff Brown, businessman and grocer. Rebecca Reinhardt, former city controller. Alan Dom, former city council member. Helen Gim, former city council member. And state representative Amen Brown. So let's go over a few of the rules for what you can expect for this evening's debate. Our panelists are with us. We'll ask questions of the candidates through several main rounds. Now, the candidates will have 1 minute to respond to the questions in those main rounds. Also, you'll see a timer, which will then turn yellow as time is running out. So you must wrap up your thoughts when they get to that. And at the end of the minute, the timer will sound. We'll also have members of the Temple University community and surrounding communities here to ask a few questions as well. Now, when those questions come up, candidates will have 30 seconds to answer those questions from the Temple community as well. So we have also some lightning rounds, some very quick reactions, some quick responses. We'll try to keep those very short. The candidates have answer cards that they'll use to answer lightning round questions. And I may call on you to answer, maybe clarify your lightning round answer. If that happens, you'll have 10 seconds, that is, to clarify what it is that you were saying. All right, a lot to go over here. I'm still talking. We are going to start over our first main round, though. And this is the biggest issue. Some say this is the only issue facing Philadelphians, and that is gun violence in our city. Our partners at Every Voice, Every Vote from the Lenfest Institute have surveyed Philadelphia voters. 89% of people here in this city said crime is the top priority for the next mayor. Now, in that survey, 64% of voters said that they have heard gunshots in their own neighborhood in just the last 12 months. When we talk to citizens, the number one issue they mention is the number of people dying in our city, especially young people. Candidates will have 1 minute to respond to this first round, and my co-anchor Sheba Russell leads us off here on the panel on the subject of gun violence in Philadelphia. Sheba.
First of all, I want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know you all have had a rigorous schedule, so we appreciate your time. I know that's an understatement, rigorous at this point. You all had a forum this morning as well. I want to begin with Rebecca Reinhardt. In your most recent TV ad, you pledged to declare gun violence the crisis that it is. Many residents at this point have a hard time believing that one person, one mayor can really make a difference. Your plan, if you were elected mayor, calls for investing in programs that have high success rates in other cities when it comes to stopping gun violence. What are those specific anti-violence programs, and would you roll out any of them on day one?
Thank you for that question. My name is Rebecca Reinhart, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for hosting today to Temple and to Fox. As mayor, I will tackle gun violence and make our city safer on day one. That involves implementing the proven programs that have been shown to work in other cities, such as New Orleans and Oakland. 50% homicide reduction rate in Oakland, 27% in New Orleans. I would implement them on day one. Also, as mayor, I would activate the Emergency Operations Center on day one to coordinate not just the police response, but streets department to fix lighting, behavioral health to provide trauma treatment for the neighborhoods most impacted by violence. And I would pull the DA and the police commissioner together to get them on the same page to tackle illegal guns. There is a lot the mayor can do.
What are those specific programs?
The specific intervention programs that I would enact are group violence intervention, cure violence, and cognitive behavior therapy. The research has found that when those programs are enacted together, focus specifically on the individuals most likely to shoot or be shot, offering them a choice out of the lifestyle. Basically, you have a choice to leave the life of violence, or there'll be consequences. Most pick the way out. That's what works.
Rebecca, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to move on to Helen Gim. Helen, you have said on day one that you would issue a state of emergency on gun violence, and this seems to be very consistent among many of the candidates, that on day one you all would issue a state of emergency, and I think a lot of people are trying to figure out what does that mean, because we are in a state of emergency now. You also said that you would bring together all agencies, that part of the state of emergency means that you would bring together all agencies to solve violent crimes. Again, looking for specifics here, what would that look like exactly? What departments need to be part of the solution now and that you see are not part of that solution?
Yes, thank you, and good evening, everybody. I'm Helen Gim. While other candidates on this stage are running for office, I'm actually running to make sure that we change the way people actually live in this city, and that does start with safety in our communities and in our neighborhoods. I've talked about a day one state of emergency that brings all of our city agencies and all relevant agencies together in a common mission for community safety. I've talked about the importance of pulling multiple entities together to talk about solving gun violence, making sure that we deploy more detectives to solve crimes, to fix our 911 response times, and to ensure that we deploy the non-police mental health mobile crisis units that I help create out into communities so that people who need mental health supports can get what they need, and so that our police officers can focus in on solving crime.
Helen, thank you. If you could hold the applause, please. Sherelle Parker, as a council member, you introduced a plan on neighborhood safety and community policing. It included many items, including adding 300 police officers, proactive community policing, and better training. We also saw some of this in one of your ads. What would you do on day one to start building trust with people that it is safe to live here, it is safe to go out and have dinner here, it is safe to take the trash out, it is safe for me to send my son or daughter to the corner store, that it is safe to simply walk around?
Thank you for the question. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sherelle Parker, and because my lived life experience closely mirrors the people feeling the most pain in our city, I am uniquely situated to make the tough decisions necessary to stop the sense of lawlessness that is plaguing our city and immediately introduce the comprehensive neighborhood safety and community policing plan, putting 300 officers on the street, proactively engaged in community policing, walking the beat, riding the bikes, getting to know the people that they are sworn to protect and serve, and not just there in response to a crisis or a 911 call. We want to build that relationship, and we also want folks to know that there will be zero tolerance for any misuse and or abuse of authority. But a proactive law enforcement presence is a key part of that plan, and I am unapologetic about it.
Sherelle, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We continue our conversation on gun violence now with our Jeff Cole. Jeff.
My question is for Jeff Brown. Good evening, Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, I want to let you know, and the candidates as well, is that Gary Whedon is here. Gary Whedon and his family are here tonight. Gary Whedon's son was 15-year-old Devin. Devin was shot to death on his way to school not long ago. Mr. Brown, the school district reports startlingly that 20 students have been shot to death in Philadelphia since the start of the school year. 100 have been victims of violence in the city, sir. Please tell me specifically what you would do to stop the slaughter of the youngest and most vulnerable people that live in this city, and how quickly you could possibly do that, sir.
Well, the first thing I wouldn't have done is defund the police like all the council people on this stage tonight. Now, we have to go and hire the people that they let the ranks dwindle. We're short 1,500 officers. There's no visible police presence on our streets. We need that. We also have 1,700 violent individuals that we haven't prosecuted because we don't have the evidence. We need to add forensics. The mayor put it in his budget this year to upgrade forensics and gunshot cameras. So we can go prosecute the very relatively small percentage of our population that is known to be violent and they belong in jail.
I'm sorry, sir. Is it your claim that they all defunded the police? There has been a whole number of people simply leaving the police department for all sorts of reasons. It's your belief that every one of them sort of walked away from funding in this city?
The 2021 budget, they all voted for it. It all reduced the police budget at a time of a crisis.
I'm sure we'll hear more about that. My next question is for Eamon Brown. Mr. Brown.
Hello.
You've offered your personal story, including being shot when you were 14 and living in a home often without heat, is important to your ability to lead this city. Please explain, sir, how those experiences, and we value them, but how those experiences prepare you to save the life of 15-year-old Devin killed on his way to school in this city.
Well, first and foremost, my lived experiences qualify me. And with those qualifications comes a strong public safety plan, which will include boosting the morale on day one by hiring a new police commissioner, removing violent criminals off the street, prioritizing warrant enforcement, making ski masks illegal, increasing lighting in critical areas, working cameras in high violent crime areas, creating NPOs, which is neighborhood police officers, who will be charged with boosting and building the relationship between cop and community, aggressively creating an aggressive social media task force, and revive community court to address the quality of life crimes, and then also citywide focused deterrence. Because if we had these things, maybe I wouldn't be standing here with a bullet lodged in between my ribs. So my lived experiences give me a seat at the table to solve this problem.
I want to be clear here. You've just said that you would not reappoint Commissioner Danielle Outlaw to lead this police department.
Yes.
Okay. All right, our conversation continues. Thomas Drayton.
Jason, thank you, and once again, good evening to all the candidates. I want to continue the conversation with Alan Dom. You have a lofty goal of reducing homicides, gun violence by 50% by the end of your first term. You too have stated you want to instate a crime emergency across the city. Families are tired of hearing declarations, of hearing words. What specifically would that declaration mean? And moving forward, would you use all resources, state and federal, including calling in the National Guard? Feel free also to respond to funding the police.
Okay, thank you for that question. And I also want to thank the Temple University for hosting tonight. And Temple holds a special place in my heart because I took all my real estate courses at the Temple Real Estate Institute. And I used to teach at the Institute back in the 90s, so Temple's special to me. But to answer your question, day one, I would declare a crime emergency in the city and a public health emergency in Kensington. I would also have my 10-point public safety comprehensive plan. It's on my website, votedom.com, has all 10 points that I would institute immediately. I'd also have a public safety cabinet. I've already met with this cabinet prior when I was on council, consisting of the police commissioner, the district attorney, FBI, ATF, Attorney General, U.S. Attorney, the courts, PATCO and SEPTA security, EDS and MEDS, including Temple security. I would conduct the meetings myself. That's what the city needs, leadership. I would conduct the meetings on a weekly basis, whether they take 1 hour or 5 hours. There is nothing more important right now than getting public safety under control.
Yes or no, would you call in the National Guard?
I would not call in the National Guard immediately, no. I would work with Governor Josh Shapiro, and if we needed additional police, I'd try to get the state police to help us.
And real quickly here, would you continue funding? How would you assess the budget, the police department's budget moving forward?
I would continue funding, but I want to make sure the real issue is we need more police officers. We have a shortage right now. We have money for the existing openings. We need to fill the ranks in the police department.
Mr. Dahm, thank you. Continuing the conversation with Derek Green, you have been very critical of the current leadership, the mayor as well as the commissioner. You've called it a crisis in leadership. What's your plan day one, and what accountability will you hold on yourself if your plan fails to curb the violence?
Well, good evening, everyone. Derek Green. I'm running to be the 100th mayor of the city of Philadelphia. Now, as a former assistant district attorney who was once racially profiled, I put together a plan that I announced in front of the DA's office about how we're going to reduce shootings in the Green administration by 25% or more in the first year. We're going to do that through presence, accountability, opportunity, investment. Presence is bringing more police officers into the city of Philadelphia using hiring bonuses that reflect the city of Philadelphia. Accountability, as you asked about, making sure we have working with the U.S. Attorney's Office to make sure that those people that have illegal guns in our city are going to be held accountable. That's what happened when I was in DA's office. And so we're going to make sure we're going to hold people accountable. I was the first candidate to say we need to have new leadership in reference to our police commissioner. I'll bring in a police commissioner. And we're going to make sure we're going to really address the issues in the city of Philadelphia, because Philadelphians should expect more and deserve better from our city. And as someone who's worked in the DA's office and not just sold cereal as a career, that's what we're going to do in the Green administration.
All right. Thank you very much. That wraps up our first round. Time to go to the lightning round. Of course, we'll have much more on crime a little bit later on here. We've got plenty of time here, but let's get to the lightning round. So please, we're going to ask you some quick response questions, yes or no. So please get your yes or no cards out and have them handy. You all have them? We good? Okay. Let's go with our first yes or no. Here comes the question. Yes or no? If you are elected mayor, will you replace Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw? Okay, we have 3 of you not voting.
That's right.
We have 2 yeses, 3 yeses, and we have a no from Alan Dahm. Helen Gim, why not? Why not a yes or no here?
Because I think that the mayor retains the right to be able to decide their next police commissioner. Mine will be dedicated to being on the ground, to being visible with communities, and Daniel Outlaw will be allowed to apply for that job.
Okay, I'll go to Sherelle Parker here. Why not?
Thank you. I'm the first candidate on this stage that said I would not make personnel decisions along the campaign trail. We're talking about almost 26,000 employees, the best and the brightest. We need a process.
Okay, let's move on to our next lightning round question here. We're going to keep it moving. Keep those yes or no cards handy. The second question in this lightning round is another one, and here it is. Are you in favor of stop and frisk? Yes or no? We have 4 votes and another 3 not voting. Derek Green, why aren't you voting here?
Well, it's simply not a yes/no question. As someone who's an attorney who's also been a prosecutor, both here in the city of Philadelphia and also in the state of Delaware, I know it's used as a way to manipulate certain perspectives, and I'm not going to answer yes or no on a complicated issue.
Sherelle Parker, you have said in the past you are in favor of it.
Yes, I am the advocate against unconstitutional stop and frisk, but there is a distinct difference, and we don't do a better job in communicating when officers have just cause and reasonable suspicion, and that's a reason to stop someone.
All right, the third question. Helen Gim, go ahead.
So I just say that stop and frisk is unconstitutional. It's led to failed practices in the past. We need to move on from the failed practices of the past, and we need to move forward on real efforts for safety.
Okay, let's get to our third question in this lightning round. You have those blank note cards and a marker, and I'm going to ask you to give someone a grade, A, B, C, D, or F. You have your cards and your pens ready to go? Okay. Jim Kenney's 8 years as mayor. Please give the mayor a grade.
Oh, he was quick.
We have an F from Jeff Brown, a C- from Derek Green, C, D-. We have an F- over there. Amen?
Yes.
Go ahead and explain your F-.
I represent West Philadelphia, one of the most violent crime communities in the city. And it bothers me that when we lose a life in West Philly, he doesn't show up. And I'm sure it's like that in many other communities. But when things happen on South Street, he was there.
Okay, can you hold those up again? Who had the best grade for the current mayor? Best grade was a C from Sherelle Parker.
Yes, because I am unapologetic about our need to improve parks, rec centers, and libraries. Because I effectively use the tools, I have some of the most state-of-the-art institutions in the city, and that should be standard operating procedure for people in all neighborhoods.
All right, thank you all for that. That'll wrap up this lightning round. Let's go to round 2 now. And candidates in this round, we're going to look at schools and education. And Jeff Cole kicks off this round with a question for Jeff Brown.
My question again is for Jeff Brown. I guess you are the serial seller, as you've been referred to here. Your business success is one of the reasons, sir, you've argued you're ready to lead. The district budget, I think, is about $4 billion. If you agree with the premise, sir, that in some ways city schools are failing, you have the business acumen that you've talked about. Quickly fix the city schools for us from a financial perspective, and tell us what you think of Tony Watlington.
The biggest problem is the buildings. They're half empty in the district, and they're old. They have old boilers, they have asbestos, they don't have air conditioning. When you compare us to other districts, we're wasting all our money in old buildings. Nobody has done anything to fix this problem or even present a plan to fix it. That's the first thing that needs to be done to fix our financial woes.
Where do you find the money to do that, sir?
Well, with the Commonwealth case, I would expect we would get more operating dollars from the state, but I also expect to get more capital dollars. That could be a down payment on the program. The second is you'll save money by getting new buildings, by fixing up the old buildings. There'll be a payback on that.
Are you willing to leave kids in place in old buildings and beat up buildings where there's asbestos while this happens?
No, but we got to decide what buildings need to close, because let's not spend money on a building that needs to close and be knocked down. So let's prioritize based on what makes sense.
My next question is for Helen Gim. Ms. Gim, there is probably no candidate on this stage more affiliated and better known with education than you. You are a former teacher who has received the endorsement and significant financial support from the City Teachers Union and their national organization as well. How would you answer critics' claims that if elected mayor, you would in some way be in the sway of a very powerful union that has been very aggressive in terms of getting its needs? And tell me where and how the union has made a decision that you disagree with and you were willing to tell them that they were wrong.
So let me be clear that I am running for mayor to finish a job I started more than 30 years ago when I was a teacher in our public school classrooms, and I knew that our kids deserve so much better. Every mayor before me has failed our public schools or has turned his back on them. And I'm going to be the first mayor to actually deliver on a mission for our schools that restores teaching back to its proper responsibility as a valued profession, that brings our young people life and vitality and keeps our city safe. I'm very clear that our education crisis is directly related to the violence that is happening here in the city of Philadelphia. And last week I unveiled a $10 billion plan to actually modernize schools. Obviously, one of the candidates has no clue about how to fund them. Ensure after school and summer camps and programs, year-round schooling. I'll prioritize safe passages to and from schools. And I do believe that labor has a role to play. They are our teachers in our classrooms.
Where has the union been wrong and you've been willing to criticize them, ma'am?
We've been partners on developing a safe, quality public school system for everybody. And that has been one of the most important things that we've been trying to do together. Asking me what the union has done wrong, I thought I had 18 seconds.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Finish.
Asking, making it clear that right now, when we've got 1,000 vacancies in our schools right now for teaching, we need to be working in partnership with our educators to make sure that we restore teaching back. But I'm very clear that, when Lower Merion is building $140 million for a public middle school for kids, I'm not leaving our kids behind.
Derek Green. Recently, Mr. Green, several city schools once again have been closed, some temporarily, others longer when asbestos was found, forcing some students to learn online once again. This has been a significant and ongoing problem in buildings averaging about 70 years old. Do you believe the district and city leadership has failed on this issue, abandoning students, and what would you do to quickly remedy this?
Well, clearly the school district has failed leadership by using our tax dollars to sue the city to not implement the legislation I put in to get rid of asbestos. Running for mayor is not about finishing a job where you write your own job description or expecting money to come from the Commonwealth. It's knowing how the city, the nation works. As a former national leader of Democratic municipal officials, I know we have a $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure law, hundreds of millions of dollars available for asbestos that we can bring into the city of Philadelphia to address that issue. We can also build new schools. That's what I saw through my national leadership. Like in Baltimore, a 21st century Baltimore plan, where we worked a lot of different partners coming together to redo our schools so we can build new schools, get rid of asbestos, and that's what we'll do in a green administration. And that's what I'll do as the 100th mayor of our city.
Mr. Green, I think the school district sued because it believed it would force them to shut down schools and have no places to put kids. That's why they've come after them.
Well, no, what the school district did, they failed to partner and participate with city council and then came back to city council to ask for more money. If they said simply, we need more time to deal with this issue as we work with the health department and law department, they would have not sued the city.
All right, thank you very much. Our conversation continues with education. Thomas Drayton.
Once again, Jason, thank you. Continuing the conversation here, Mr. Brown, Amen Brown. As mayor, your job will be to appoint members of the Board of Education. Some argue that the members are beholden to the mayor and not to the public, accountable. Do you agree with that assessment, and would you be willing to let it go and offer up an elected board?
No, I do not support elected board. I support the mayor appointing. But I also support a school board that reflects the students. So if we have 35 to 40% charter school students, I think that the school board needs to reflect charter school supporters.
What grade would you give the current board now?
I give them a C.
A C?
A C plus, yes.
What needs to change?
I think that they need to be more involved in the communities, and they need to physically experience what the children go through, because it is impossible for our children to learn in these current conditions. We still have schools where the urinals are still embedded in the floor and the stalls have no doors. And we need to better the food. And I remember when I was a kid, I depended on school for heat and meals because of my living situation and what my environment was like. So it is my job to make sure our schools are better for our children.
Mr. Brown, thank you. Ellen Dom, I want to continue here and just with the harsh facts. According to the National Association of Educational Progress, just 15% of the city's fourth graders are proficient in reading. Who ultimately bears the responsibility for failing school system, and what grade would you currently give the current system?
I think it's the mayor who has the ultimate responsibility because the mayor appoints the school board. And I would say this, we need to support those to get them better reading proficiency than they are right now. But in the schools in general, I've been a big supporter of teaching from K through 12, financial literacy, teaching technology K through 12, and teaching entrepreneurship K through 12. And in high school, allowing students in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade the opportunity to go to school 4 days a week, and on the 5th day, work in a job, get credit, get paid, probably get a summer job, and in today's economy, many employers will say, hey, Alan, I know you're working on Monday. Can you come in Tuesday through Friday after school and work? Cristo Rey High School does this at 17th and Allegheny. Last year, they graduated 99% of their students, and 100% of that 99% were admitted to college. It's something that works really well. So I would say we need to implement that in our public school system.
So once again, what grade would you give the current system?
The grade I'd give the current system is probably a C, and I'll tell you why. 22 years ago, high school graduation rates were at 50%. Today, they're at 75%. Not where we want them to be, but we have made some progress.
All right, thank you very much. Sheba Russell on education.
My first question is for Rebecca Reinhardt. Rebecca, parents, teachers, and students have been very critical of the school district's lottery system, which allows qualified students, and I'm going to put a air quote, overqualified students to be admitted to criteria-based schools. We've heard stories of kids losing sleep over this whole process, anxious about whether they'll even get into the lottery, and once they are in the lottery, whether they will get picked. As mayor, would you loosen the requirements? Would you call for an end to the system? How would you ensure a fair admissions process?
So as mayor, public education is incredibly important to me. My daughter is in 7th grade in the public school system here in Philadelphia. The lottery system, as it was enacted by the school board, was random and is not fair. It is going to try to address, though, it has tried to address the equity issue, the lack of equity, but you can't fix equity with a lottery. What you need to do to fix equity is to fix the overall school system. And as mayor, I would work to do that. I would appoint a school board that shares my vision for accountability and for transformation of the schools. And I would make sure that my mayor's Office of Education was talking and dealing with the school district and school board every day to hold people responsible. So that's the way to get improvement in our schools overall. And we have to improve the neighborhood schools so everyone's not trying to get into these special schools.
Thank you. Sherelle, as a former English teacher, you know better than anyone else that Philly is facing a teacher shortage, right? The district is now seeking to hire nearly 1,000 teachers, principals, school workers for the next school year. How would you, as a former teacher, urge the school board to actively work to recruit more teachers? What tactic has not been tried that you believe would be helpful in bringing more teachers to Philadelphia?
I'm not just going to tell you what we can do, I'm going to tell you how we can get it done. First, we have to use an intergovernmental approach. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is responsible for providing a thorough and efficient public education. We just got a ruling that will allow us to yield additional funding for public education. If we were able to leverage state support with local support along with federal support and market our housing, encourage people to repair existing properties to come, increase teacher pay, but market public education differently. It's not just year-round public school. Yes, that's something that I proffered, but schools need to be open as early as 7:30 in the morning. Close no earlier than 6 p.m. We need to have the building trades in schools teaching our children so that they are multiple tracks, and we need culturally competent teachers in a majority-minority district. Representation is important, and HBCUs should be a significant part of our recruitment efforts.
Sherelle, thank you.
All right. As we mentioned, we're here at the TPAC Center on the campus of Temple University. We're going to turn to our friends at Temple for some questions here. Candidates will have 30 seconds to respond to their questions here. We have a member of the student body here, and I'll send it over to my colleague, Shawnette Wilson. Shawnette.
Jason, thank you. I'm here with Gianni Quattrochi, who is the president of Temple Student Government. First of all, how excited are you to be here tonight?
Very much. I think it's important that students at Temple stay civically engaged and involved.
Okay. So I have a quick fun question before we get down to business. I heard that today is your birthday. If we can get a quick happy birthday to Gianni. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And he's spending his birthday here. Quick question for you. If you could have a birthday dinner or lunch with one candidate, who would it be?
Oh, one candidate. I would like to have I think it would be great to have a roundtable lunch discussion with all the candidates vying political. So.
Future politician here. Cake's on you all, cake's on you all. What's your question for our candidates tonight?
So in recent months, students have seen firsthand the effects of the crime wave ravaging Philadelphia. They have been victims of crimes, they've seen it, their peers have been affected. What would you do as mayor to protect Philadelphia, to address the public safety crisis, and to protect Philadelphians and Temple students significantly, that encourage students to remain in Philadelphia instead of leaving once their education is over, or even transferring out of Philadelphia colleges?
Candidates, you each have 30 seconds. Alan Dom, we begin with you.
About a year ago, I did a ride-along in the 22nd Police District, 17th in Montgomery. That night, I witnessed the aftermath of 7 shootings within 6 to 10 o'clock at night. In fact, I think Fox was at that, I think, Jeff, you were at that, reporting on that. And I will say this, Temple's security will be part of my public safety cabinet. We'll be meeting weekly. We can't just get the violence at Temple under control. It's the whole neighborhood. It has to be a community in a whole. It has to be the whole city we have to get under control. And
30 seconds for this one, guys. It's a quickie. Sherelle Parker, same question for you here.
Ensure that I am willing to make the tough decisions necessary to bring order back to our city, and that means allowing law enforcement and every law enforcement agency to use every available legal tool that they need to ensure that public health and safety is our #1 priority. In addition, no isolation. SEPTA, Penn, Philadelphia Police Department, every law enforcement entity in the city of Philadelphia has to have a coordinated approach to address public safety.
Ms. Parker, thank you very much. Jeff Brown.
Let's start out with, I've been meeting with the Temple Police, and it was announced today they endorsed me, and they think I'm the only qualified candidate because of my management experience. Second thing is the Temple Police is suffering from understaffing problem, just like the regular police and every other law enforcement department. We have to raise starting wages, be competitive, and get that police department staffed up to protect our students.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. Shawnette, do you have another student with you?
We do. Akshita Ag, also with student government here, Vice President. Okay, you are also a junior.
I'm a senior.
A senior, I'm sorry. So talk to us about your time here at Temple. What do you love about the university?
I love being in Philadelphia. I have been here for 4 years. I love that we as Temple students get the opportunity to not only be on Temple's campus, but also be engaged with local Philadelphians. It gives us a very well-rounded experience as a college student.
All right, graduating this May. Congratulations early to you. What is your question?
I have a question for all of the candidates. During a student's time in Philadelphia, we have to contend with the high rates of rent living on campus and off campus, along with the rising crime rate in Philadelphia. So if elected mayor, what will you do to create a better environment for living that retains students who go to college in Philadelphia? Thank you.
30 seconds on the clock. Almond Brown, we begin with you.
Yes, thank you for that question. I'm going to address the public safety component first, portion first. I owe Temple a lot. Sergeant Chris Fitzgerald, who we lost recently, he loved this community, and he served Temple, and he woke up every single day to protect the students here. So if we could please keep our family in prayers. But what we're going to do to make sure the students are safe. I'm sorry.
You can fit one sentence. You can finish the sentence.
What we're going to do to make sure the city is safe, not just Temple campus, we're going to make sure the entire city is safe, is removing violent criminals off our streets and addressing and prioritizing warrant enforcement.
Okay, thank you very much. Rebecca Reinhardt.
So I'm going to address the gun violence and crime issue. This gun violence is fixable, and as mayor, I would make this city safer. The way it's fixable, we need to address it both short-term and long-term. Long-term is the root cause, is the poverty and lack of opportunity, but the short-term is that we need consequences and rules. Right now, we have chaos on the street, and that's not acceptable. Of course, we need compassion, but we also need consequences.
All right, Helen Gim.
You've called Philadelphia home for 4 years, and I'm here to make sure that you call it home for the next 40. This is what I know about what makes cities safe. Safe cities invest in people. A lot of the candidates up here have only talked about crime as a policing and enforcement as a measure for crime, but we are not talking about managing a crisis. A mayor has to prevent it, and that means safe cities invest in people. We need safe communities that are clean and vibrant, safe youth who are educated and supported with strong families, and safe neighbors are ones who know that housing, healthcare, and real economic opportunity are a right, and that's what I'll deliver as your mayor.
Hold your applause, please. Please hold your applause. Derek Green.
Well, Jeff, there you go again. Selling a lot of Fruit Loops do not make you qualified to be mayor. Her question is in reference to how do we address the issue of public safety and quality of life. So when I talk about presence, and I talk about presence in my public safety plan, getting guns off our street, is making sure that the police department is working with Temple Police, but also using some of the quality life investment that we will bring to the city and the Green Administration right here at Temple, Community College of Philadelphia, LaSalle, and all the colleges and the universities in the city of Philadelphia to make sure that people stay, and hopefully you'll have a career here in the city of Philadelphia.
Right, thank you, candidates, and thank you, Temple students, for your input and your question. Let's go to the next round here. These are going to be 1-minute responses from the candidates. We're going to talk about the quality of life in the city of Philadelphia. So many subjects here in this subcategory. The next mayor has a big, difficult issue to tackle, many of them, as a matter of fact, like people in Philadelphia who do not have homes, other serious crises, mental health, addiction, convenience issues, things like trash, parking, construction, and don't get me started on potholes in this city. So, Thomas Straighten starts us off on this topic.
You hit something with the potholes there. But I do want to continue with Helen Gim because you mentioned that we need areas that are vibrant. Last week in the city, we saw hundreds of teens running rampant near the Fashion District. I think all of you would agree that was not a good look for the city. But this has added fuel to the argument that we need a proposed Sixers arena in the area on Market East. I know you. My question
I'm not sure how you're making that connection, but continue.
There have been some who have argued that bringing a proposed arena, bringing opportunities would revitalize the area. So my question to you, and I think you already answered this, do you agree with that assessment? If not, what should be in that area moving forward?
Okay, so I am trying to change the way people live in this city, and especially for young people in Philadelphia. That means providing real opportunities in neighborhoods and communities. I don't think people understand how much has been taken away from young people. And, and that's why I'm talking about a real agenda for bringing back vibrant programs for youth, for guaranteed employment for young adults in neighborhoods to revitalize communities, to make sure that there are after-school programs, summer jobs, and summer camps and summer internships year-round, that we take a real look at supporting young people. I also want to make sure that education is absolutely part of this as well. That's why I fought so hard for pre-K, for free community college, to make sure that this city actually vibrantly supports people. The Sixers arena has nothing to do with that, and also it is kind of trash that they tried to buy one of the candidates on this stage, proving yet again that the rules don't apply for billionaires, and that this is not how we're going to run a city. A mayor's going to run a city in the public interest.
All right, we're going to move on. Amen Brown, and you'll have a chance to rebut that. There are far too many individuals who are unsheltered living on the streets of Philadelphia, Mr. Brown. Some coping with mental health and addiction, 5,700 individuals deemed homeless, over 900 unsheltered. What specifically will you do to address this problem, to help these individuals to clear the streets moving forward?
Yes, before I answer that question, I believe the next mayor of the city needs to be completely transparent with each and every individual that we are going to represent. So, Ms. Gim, is it true that you met one-on-one with the Sixers owner on Market Street the other day?
This is not part of our format to ask each other questions in here, so
we just need a transparent mayor. So what I will do, understanding that mental health is a real thing in our city, we have homeless people living on the streets, sleeping in front of small businesses, closing businesses, which creates job loss. We're going to need to give the people the option. We're either going to seek the services that the city and state are funding voluntarily or involuntarily. We have to show people that it is not okay to be living on the streets, and we need to make sure they have access to the resources that the city and state and the federal government are funding.
We have additional time. I do want to give real quickly Helen Gim and Jeff Brown time. 15 seconds strict, please.
So unlike State Representative Brown and unlike the other Brown, I'm not bought. And so it's clear that, we're going to have a clear conversation about the future of this city, but it's going to be in the public interest. I have always been somebody who has led with the public interest.
Did you meet with the Sixers?
I met with David Edelman, but not to discuss anything.
Okay. Whoa.
Wait,
Jeff Brown.
Hold on a second. So, to be clear, meeting with an individual is not a problem. Taking their money is.
Okay. Jeff Brown, can you quickly, 1 second, would you clarify what that conversation was about? You said not to discuss anything. What does that mean?
The conversation was a general meeting between him and I. And it did not discuss the Sixers, and I definitely think he knows, and everybody knows on this stage, that I'm not going to be bought. But I have met with lots of different people here in the city of Philadelphia, and will continue to do so.
Mr. Brown, your chance.
Guys, no shouting from the audience here. Okay, let's have a good debate here. Jeff Brown, you're going to have 30 seconds for your response here.
Sure, thank you. I met with Sixers ownership. I also met with Chinatown multiple times, and I met with Comcast. And that's what someone like us should do, meet with people, find out how you could bring people together to get an important project for the city done, if there's a way to do it. As far as an independent expenditure, which many of us on the stage have, I have no knowledge of who contributed. Or, to my knowledge, I don't think the Sixers organization even contributed to the independent expenditure. But I don't know, and it wouldn't matter to me anyway.
All right, Sheba Russell continues our talk on quality of life, which is where we were in this round. Sheba?
My first question is for Sherelle, and this does have to do with the 76ers. Two of your big endorsements are from the Carpenters Union and Building and Construction Trades Council. As we talk about this controversial project, is there a way to execute a project like the 76ers Arena in that area of Market East where Chinatown businesses are protected, its cultural center kept intact, and people are not displaced by rising rents? Is there a way to do that?
So first, let me state that I believe that the building trades endorse Sherelle Parker because they know I have a plan to grow Philadelphia's economy. It includes the building of 30,000 affordable units of housing that includes single-family dwellings and mixed use. It also includes the rebuilding of Philadelphia public schools, in which we will have the building trades training our students to be the ones building the schools they will attend. In addition to that, we talk about building new. We don't talk about the need to repair existing. We need to repair our affordable homes, and the most affordable one you have is the one you live in. But you may not have the disposable income in order to get it fixed. As it relates to the Sixers Arena or any other large-scale economic development investment, the mayor's response should not be a knee-jerk no. I call that reflexive opposition. That's not leadership. You do a cost-benefit analysis, you listen to the people who are most effective, and you make the best decision you have with the research at your hands. And that's what a Parker administration will do, unboard and unboss.
Thank you, Sherelle Parker.
Alan Dom, as a former councilman and developer, you know the ins and outs of real estate better than anyone. There is great concern about gentrification under a Dom administration. How would you preserve and expand affordable housing, not just for single people, but for families?
So let me just clarify. I've actually never done ground-up development. My only development were existing buildings that were typically built in the 1920s, and they were shuttered, and I brought them back to life, which I love to do. So in the gentrification, I've never gentrified anything, okay? But I will say this, the key to this is to utilize the properties that the city has control of, whether it's the land bank or other entities, and utilize all those properties as a leverage for affordable housing for the communities across the city. We're going to need 30,000 properties by 2030, and we can utilize with nonprofits and private development, let them generate affordable low-income housing, lower-income housing, 30% AMI, but use our assets to generate that opportunity for people in the city.
Are you happy with the direction of affordable housing now? Do you think it's slow? Do you think it's on pace? What is your assessment of affordable housing right now?
I looked at some of the land bank sales in the last year, 2022. It's about 300 sales, so I'd say it's a snail's pace. We need to really recharge it. But there's no reason why we should own all this real estate. We need to put it into affordable housing.
Alan, thank you. Jeff Brown, one of your campaign slogans is pick up the bleep trash. Littering, illegal dumping, and some timey garbage pickup system continues to be a persistent problem in the city. Where Philadelphia trucks some of its trash has spurred accusations of pollution and environmental racism, specifically from the residents of Chester. Would you, as mayor, keep or change the existing waste disposal contracts?
So, I really don't. I'm not sure, because I would bid it out, but I'm not sure if that changes it or not. But Chester is Chester. I'm worried about Philadelphians and how their lives are. And so what will come first to me is what would be best for my Philadelphians.
So you don't care about Chester?
I do care.
The trash that's coming from Philadelphia.
I do care, but I don't work for them if I'm the mayor. I work for Philadelphia.
No.
And the trash has to go somewhere. And whoever gets it's going to be unhappy with it.
Well, that's not really an appropriate answer, but we can discuss it.
Do we have Jeff Cole?
That response is the same way you treat the black and brown community.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Jeff Cole, you have the next question.
To Derek Green, again, I want to continue on this issue of trash, which I think if you've lived in the city of Philadelphia and talked to folks here, they're certainly concerned about it. Mr. Green, if Philadelphia residents are willing to roll down their windows of their cars and occasionally drop trash directly onto the street, or use side streets and empty lots as dumping grounds, known as short dumping, what policy could possibly change that behavior, and how do you make residents care, if they don't, about the city they live in? How do you lead in that way?
Well, you lead because Philadelphians should expect more and deserve better from our city. We've got to change the behavior of our city. I look at my son. My son's on the autism spectrum. And when I learned about the issues of recycling, he made sure that every day when he uses anything that's plastic, he makes sure it's empty, clean, and dry. And so young people can help educate and change the patterns of behaviors of adults. But we also have to have real enforcement. You know, the police department does not have the people they need to address this issue. That's why I'm talking about hiring bonuses. Also in reference to cameras, and hold people accountable, and also let people know that if you're going to do these things in our city, we're going to hold you accountable and have people see what happens when you do the wrong things. It's about changing the behavior, but also holding people accountable by increasing fines, making sure L&I has the people that we need to go after short dumping and using cameras, and making sure we do it in a real way to address the issue so we're no longer viewed as Philadelphia, but we're the city of brotherly love and sisterly effectiveness and the birthplace of this nation.
Continuing quality of life, this time for Rebecca Reinhart. Early this year, you stood in Kensington, near people in the grips of heroin addiction, where the drug is openly used, where people often die. It's gone on for years. The problems are complex. Yet you declared, I can fix this. What's your response to that it was overstated and possibly disingenuous? And what do you say to voters whose cynicism would jump when it doesn't happen or doesn't happen as quickly as you indicated it would?
I absolutely will fix that with the community, working with the neighborhood. We're not the first city in the world to have an open-air drug market. There are solutions. We must use law enforcement to break up the open-air drug market, and we must have compassionate care for those suffering from substance use disorder. Both are possible. And as mayor, I will lead that charge starting on day one, empowering law enforcement. There's strategies such as drug market intervention that have worked in other places, and making sure that the city is working appropriately, having rapid intake for treatment. We can absolutely fix Kensington. And in fact, it's completely a disgrace that the current administration has let it continue the way it is. So yes, I will fix Kensington, absolutely.
The flow of heroin here is from almost an international trade. It is the cheapest and best in the country, apparently. And how do you stop that?
Well, that's about working with law enforcement at the federal level, at the state level, and working towards that at the same time to say, we are not going to allow this in Kensington. You know, it should not be acceptable, and it won't be when I'm mayor.
Ms. Reinhart, thank you very much, panel. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to talk public safety after this.
How do we get so brave?
And welcome back to this You Decide Philadelphia's Next Mayor special presentation, a Democratic primary debate. We're live here on the campus of Temple University at the Performing Arts Center. We have 7 candidates here tonight. If you're just joining us, they're on the ballot, of course, and we are about 1 month away from primary day coming up on May 16th. And so far, we've looked at topics like gun violence in our city, education, quality of life issues. Our next topic is crime in the city of Philadelphia. Now, we are partnering with Lenfest Institute for journalism's Every Voice, Every Vote initiative. And they just did a survey of Philadelphia voters, and voters spoke up. Did they ever? Crime and public safety are their top priorities. Sheba, you start us off again for this round.
Gun violence and crime going hand in hand here, but we want to dig a little deeper on this topic because it is just so important to the people of Philadelphia. I want to start with you, Derek Green. As a council member, you introduced legislation that would offer $10,000 training bonuses to recruit new police officers. And you've said that your goal is to add 1,000 new highly trained officers on the street, the emphasis on being highly trained. Besides bonuses, how do you aggressively recruit and increase retention in this climate?
Well, actually, it's $20,000 in hiring bonuses, similar to what I've seen in Baltimore and Newark, and also Seattle, which is actually doing $30,000 hiring bonuses. But what we need to do, we need to change the perspective and the culture of the police department. I'm an African-American man who also was an assistant district attorney, so I understand the real challenges that the community has in reference to policing. We have to rebuild trust. I mean, we're going into communities, and we're going to recruit people that look like the city of Philadelphia. You know, when I was young, growing up, going to Canaan Baptist Church, I remember police officers and others who were either deacons or also worked at police athletic leagues. We have to bring back that perspective. The Army had a similar issue coming out of Vietnam. They had to change their perspective from a be-all-you-can-be perspective to say, we want you to come into our city because it's an honorable profession to protect and serve our citizens, our residents, our neighbors, our family. So we need you, and I will be the public face of that to aggressively bring in Philadelphians into the city of Philadelphia to make sure they become police officers to protect and serve.
Derek, thank you. State Representative Amin Brown, you are well known for being tough on crime. You're a survivor of gun violence. You said no when it came to the question of stop and frisk, bringing back that controversial policing technique. But you wavered a little bit. I saw you bring the card up, bring it down. You weren't quite sure. So tell me your thinking with that on whether you should bring the card up, how you should vote on that.
Yeah, so the wavering wasn't for the yes or the no. But my public safety plan, there will be no need for stop and frisk. I'm going to be the kind of leader in 215 that is going to work directly with law enforcement, not against law enforcement. I am the only candidate who has never flip-flopped on pro-cop or not. And that's a fact.
Can you explain more on that?
Yes. You have several candidates here who voted to not increase the police budget. I will be in full support of increasing the police budget because we need to focus on building and relocating the forensic lab. We also need to make sure that our officers are protected and they have the equipment needed to actually protect and serve.
Would you like to see more police officers patrolling the streets?
Oh, absolutely. And once I am mayor, we will have cops coming from all over the country to be a part of this police department.
Thank you very much. Crime and more from Jeff Cole.
I go now to Mr. Dom. Alan Dom. Mr. Dom, can you tell me how many illegal guns the city of Philadelphia, its police department, took off the street last year?
I don't know how many they took off, but I can tell you that the shooters of the 14-year-old young man at Roxborough High School had several, 15 to 18 prior gun violations.
They did. It's about 6,000 guns is what they've taken off. You've said that you will mount an aggressive crackdown on illegal guns in your first 100 days. Philadelphia Police, the Office of the United States Attorney, FBI, ATF say they've been doing exactly that. Specifically, where have they failed? in your view, if you say you are going to do it? Where have they failed?
Well, look at the Roxborough situation. Almost 18 prior gun violations. We have failed in the prosecution of holding people accountable. That young man, Nicholas Elizade, should be here today. That person should not have been on the street. Prior gun violations, had murdered someone the day before, was out on bail for a hit and run that unfortunately he killed a pregnant woman's baby. That person shouldn't have been on the street. We need more accountability.
What do you believe about gun laws? Where would you reform gun laws if you believe, if these guys had illegal guns, where did they get them? What's your view of reforming gun laws in the city then?
There's not much we can do to reform gun laws in Philadelphia. It's a Harrisburg situation. But I still say people who have guns illegally, we should be holding them accountable. They should not have those guns, and we should hold them accountable.
Rebecca Reinhart. In a review of the Philadelphia police, you reported the shortage of police was in part due to the Heart and Lung program, which pays injured officers their salary tax-free while on leave. Do you believe the police union is at fault due to its aggressive support of Heart and Lung? And what's your response to John McNesby, who soon after you released the review of the police department said that you were building your campaign on the backs of hardworking, overworked police officers?
So, as city controller, my audit of the police department speaks for itself in terms of the findings. And the police department, the top leadership of the police department, actually welcomed that audit. Okay, they accepted that audit, and what that audit showed was serious challenges in both officers abusing injured on duty. It showed out of a little under 6,000 officers, only 2,500 are on patrol. We need to move officers from desk work down to patrol. It showed a lot of issues. What my position is, and what I will do as mayor, I believe that we need to support the hardworking officers while at the same time having accountability and change in policing. What McNesby says, I'm focused on change and reform. He can say what he wants. I'm focused on the police department.
Sherelle Parker. Ms. Parker, you're a supporter of the legal form, you say, of stop and frisk. You've also said you are the mother of a beautiful black boy with locks.
Yes.
Aren't black boys and men with locks the people most victimized by stop and frisk? And how would you make sure that stop and frisk is in fact being done lawfully?
So one, I will never allow anyone to put me in a box. Because I've had to function at the intersection of race and gender my entire life, and I do know that the unconstitutional use of the tool stop and frisk has disproportionately negatively impacted black and brown boys. The constitutional use of it as a policing tool is something that our law enforcement must use in order to ensure that our city is safer. Now, let me tell you this, there will be zero tolerance for any misuse and or abuse of authority by law enforcement. How do you ensure it? When you have a mayor who is a leader, who says it's not an either or. You will be held accountable. We will also have reform, but we will use every tool in the toolbox to ensure that our city is safer and cleaner and greener.
Explain to me how it's legally done then, really quickly. How do you legally do it?
It is legally done. For the first time in our city's history, as a result of the Bailey consent decree, we collect data now on every stop. As a result of that, we can tell when an officer has used reasonable suspicion and just cause in order to make the stop. And we will continue to use that data. And if we find the officer doesn't follow the rules, he or she is gone. There's no
Thank you very
room.
much.
Thanks.
Thomas. Public safety and crime.
Let's talk about the leadership within the district attorney's office. Helen Gim, you have publicly stated you are, quote, direct quote, all in for Larry Krasner because he is going to bring real reform to the office. Do you believe the district attorney has brought real reform? Are there any changes you would make to the office?
Yes, I do believe that the district attorney has brought real reform. He's taken a serious look at individuals who've been wrongfully incarcerated. He's taken a hard stand on individuals within law enforcement who should be held to account. And he's working to make sure that we have a proactive approach towards policing. I've worked with him on diversion of young people in particular. I've worked with him in partnership with young people to make sure that they get other opportunities rather than just seeing, the inside of a jail cell. But let me make one thing clear. All of us are up here talking only about policing, and I've made it very clear. We cannot just manage our way through crisis. We cannot react to gun violence. We have to prevent and stop it, and that is exactly what a mayor is supposed to do. And that's why I have a big vision on how we're actually going to provide guaranteed employment and supports for young people, how we keep families strong, how we make sure that our schools and our education system are of top quality, and we give young people the opportunities that they need.
Quickly, do you believe the district attorney's office should get additional funding?
Yes, I do believe they should get additional funding.
Helen Gim, thank you. Jeff Brown, in recent years, we've seen an uptick in violence against certain groups. Leading our city, how will you protect these vulnerable groups, the Asian community, Jewish community, the LGBT plus communities?
Yeah, the Muslim community.
Yes.
We're all on the list somewhere. It just depends on the order. And the police have to be sensitive to that risk. And we need to beef up policing in those areas to protect them, including cameras. We also need to diversify the police because we need to have police officers that come from those communities, understand the nuances of their community, and protect them.
How will you strengthen protection and support services for those who report hate crime?
We have to follow up and investigate hate crime, and we have no tolerance for hate crime in this city. This is a melting pot. It's not homogeneous. We've lived together for many, many years. We do have problems, but we can't tolerate hate, and we have to come down hard on that.
All right, Mr. Brown, thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's now hear from a member of the Temple community now. Shawnette Wilson standing by with a Temple professor tonight. Shawnette.
Well, Jason, I have Dr. Jamie Mansell with me right now from Temple's College of Public Health. We're a little tight on time for this segment, but you have a little one at home who is just as interested in this debate as you are.
Hi, Vera.
That's all she gets is a hello. What's her name?
Vera.
Okay, Vera's watching tonight. What's your question for our panel?
Yes. Within the College of Public Health, we believe that many of the topics you've discussed tonight, from the opioid epidemic to gun violence, are public health crises. How would you specifically engage the public health experts in the city to improve these areas?
We're going to start this round with Sherelle Parker.
30 seconds.
The first thing I wouldn't do was to employ the use of a safe injection site as a tool to address the opioid crisis. I refer to that as what I call I know what's best for use people policy making, when academicians and others attempt to force a particular strategy on a community. But I want a regional approach, and that would mean I would have to call my good friend Mayor Thaddeus Kirkland of Chester, the entire 5-county area, since 75% of the people who are suffering from the opioid crisis are from outside of Philadelphia. So all of our mental health and public health academicians would be a part of that strategy.
Thank you. Rebecca Reinhardt, same question for you.
Sure. Well, as mayor, I would partner with our public health institutions, our hospitals, our universities to determine the best course of action. As city controller, I did work around gun violence and worked with Temple and other universities on that work. So that is part of the way I approach things. We need to have a public health approach to every aspect of our city, including some things such as where we put our trash. We shouldn't be sending it to Chester to be burned.
All right, thank you very much. Amen Brown, same question for you.
Yes, thank you. So when you have a heart condition or a heart problem, you don't go to urgent care. So if we have a public health crisis, we need to make sure we're working hand in hand with those specialists and those professionals. So my administration will be depending on those professionals to solve this problem. Thank you.
And Helen Gim.
Thank you very much. So I've long felt that we need a health-first approach to solving the gun violence issue and many of the other issues in our city. This is one in which hospitals have led, a number of medical experts have led on hospital-based intervention approaches. It's why I made sure that we would have nurses, counselors, and social workers and teen wellness programs available in schools, especially in those areas that are most impacted by gun violence. And it's why I'm going to make sure that our supporters and victims and survivors of violence have access to long-term housing and mental health care and support that they need.
Thank you, Ms. Gim. Back to Shawnette now. You have a member of the North Philadelphia community with you.
I do, Jason. Kathy Barnes, a North Philadelphia resident, a part of several organizations, community groups that listen to concerns in the community and address them as well. What are some of those organizations you belong to?
The Hart Ranch Playground Alliance, as well as the North Philadelphia Collective.
What's your question tonight?
My question is from the perspective that, unfortunately, in 2023, Philadelphia is still a tale of two cities. I am from the 19133 zip code, which is the 5th most impoverished in the state, yet still continues to be the most underfunded and doesn't even qualify for the present funding opportunities that are supposed to erase the inequities that have been in the past. My focus in my question is this. What is your plan to, number one, address the fact that 15 minutes away from our zip code, the life expectancy goes up by 20 years, as well as the fact that our special needs children in this city are being warehoused in the Poconos where their families can't even get there to visit to correct their behavior and incorrect parenting. In addition, that we would like to see someone work with Kelvin Jeremiah, the Land Bank, and all the other resources available to the city to create a city of home owners, not home renters, because we all know that generational wealth comes through home ownership, and that all of our city recreational facilities get funding and fixed. Our playground hasn't been touched in over 25 years. Despite whoever your city council person is, we need a mayor to cover all the city residents, despite what's being done by the city council people.
Okay, a couple issues in one question. Derek Green, 30 seconds, we begin with you.
Derek Green.
So, Kathy, thank you for your question. I mean, your question is about the issues we have in our city. When I say Philadelphians should expect more and deserve better from our city, my public safety plan not only addresses the issue of public safety, but also opportunities and investment, how we get out of poverty by growing small businesses, using the land bank and other tools to bring things together. That's what we need to do in the city of Philadelphia. People are hurting. People are hurting because of the issues we're dealing with and the lack of leadership from this administration. We need to make sure we have a city that represents all people of all communities, especially in this city, and that's what you get with Derek Green as mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Green. Listen, she touched on a lot of issues, and she spoke from her heart there. So 30 seconds, Mr. Alan Dom here to respond to what she asked.
Thank you for the question. I'm going to respond to the home ownership. I think a lot of these questions are around leadership. I've spent almost over 40 years in the private sector, almost 2 terms on council, and I'm the only one who can, I think, bring to the table solutions to solve these problems. And home ownership, look, the average wealth of a tenant is $4,000 to $6,000. The average wealth of a homeowner is $200,000. 95% of the wealth in the country is in home ownership. We need to improve home ownership in our city. I'll have a program to do it. We're going to teach financial literacy to our kids and home ownership, and I will teach financial literacy and home ownership to adults.
Thank you, Mr. Dom. Jeff Brown.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a tale of two cities, and there is a 20-year life expectancy. I mean, that's why we open stores in food deserts, to address that and try to mitigate that, taking us from one of the worst cities to one of the best. And I am here because I believe that structural poverty is our problem. If that's not fixed, we're not fixing anything. And I have a robust plan to address that. Reforms in K through 12, reforms in workforce system, and investments to get people out of structural poverty.
All right, candidates, thank you very much. Time for another lightning round here, so please get your yes or no cards out. And here comes your first yes or no question of this lightning round. All ready? Okay. Are District Attorney Larry Krasner's policies keeping the city of Philadelphia safe, yes or no?
I'd like to explain.
Yes, I'd like to explain.
Rebecca Reinhardt, please explain. She did not vote for the record.
To me, there needs to be serious change to some of his policies, such as we need changes to retail theft, we need changes to cracking down on illegal guns, but some things he is doing is real reform in terms of exonerating people that are actually innocent.
Okay.
So I support that.
Can you please hold your cards up again? Those of you who did vote, so we can just see for the record. So there was 4 no's here. And Derek Green?
Well, listen, as a former prosecutor, I understand those issues. I supported some of the issues he's done with reference to bail reform, as well as the conviction integrity unit. But the number one issue in our city is gun violence, and he's not prosecuting guns like he should.
10 seconds, Sherelle Parker.
Retail theft. 5 black-owned boutiques on Germantown Avenue. If we let people steal $499 worth of merchandise every day, they'll be out of business and off the corridor. We've got to address that.
Next lightning round question, another yes or no. Keep those cards handy. And here we go with this question. As of today, are you a yes or a no on the 76ers arena proposal? And the purpose of these lightning rounds is to see where you stand on these issues. And I know it's complicated, but as of today, if you're mayor, where do you stand? Alan Dom, no vote.
Yes, well, the recent news gives me reason to pause on this, and I need more information as to what's going on.
Yes. If you're asking us to vote today, like if we had to make a decision today, I would vote no, because there's not enough information. But as mayor, the point is to get all the information and then make an educated decision.
And when I met consistent about this issue.
Yes, when I met with David Edelman, I made one thing clear. Chinatown must thrive, and billionaires like him don't deserve public subsidies.
Jeff Brown, I've got to give you 10 seconds here. Got to give you 10 seconds here.
I think to turn this city around, we need big projects, and the mayor has to help get big projects done. But we also have to be sensitive to community, and I said that from the beginning. Chinatown's issues need to be addressed.
You were a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, let's get to our next round here. Once again, 1-minute answers. This is about money. We're talking about pocketbook issues that Philadelphians, that hit them in their bank accounts. Jeff Cole, you start us off this round.
Almond Brown. Mr. Brown, you've been linked to significant financial difficulties, including tax liens and claims of unpaid personal debts, along with trouble with campaign filings. How can a person who struggled to manage his own financial affairs possibly manage a city with a budget proposed by the mayor now of some $6.1 billion, sir?
So first and foremost, I believe I'm the only candidate up here who've learned from his actual or her actual lived experiences. The challenge seems as though is that the legislation that these individuals haven't learned from, and the cost that it has given the city.
I'm sorry? The cost that it has given the city? I mean, so you've struggled
regressive policies.
The question is, are your problems indicative of your ability to handle money and handle the
Absolutely not. I've learned from my past, and I've gotten through them.
Okay, here we go. Let's go. Mr. Brown, you have seen the headlines. We all have. The Philadelphia Board of Ethics has sued a super PAC and a nonprofit supporting your campaign, alleging you coordinated with them in violation of the city's finance law. A judge has ordered the PAC and the nonprofit to cease all spending until late April hearing. Sir, did you collude with this PAC and get benefit from them, sir?
I did not collude with them, and I think when we go to court, that'll be found out. I think this is about the political establishment not wanting the change that we so desperately need.
Did you, sir, did you meet with the PAC in any way and talk to them about what your interests were and what was going on with the Market Street property and the arena at all?
No.
Sir, do you believe that this allegation has raised questions about your honesty and your integrity, which has been raised against you?
Stop the clapping, please. Stop the applause, please.
I have a very long history here and one of the most significant reputations of constant integrity and caring for people. This has not been tried. When it gets tried, I will win. This is a political hit job. This is not a reality.
Are you concerned, sir, that unnamed large money sources are flooding money to your campaign? Does that feel democratic to you? And if they're unnamed, they're going to want something later. Won't they reveal themselves to you, sir? I know you're not the only one getting this. But.
Yeah, there's four or five candidates that have it, and some of them have very large amounts of money. And do I think it's a good system? No, but that's the system we have. And when you're up against someone like Alan Dom that has unlimited money, you have to find a way to raise money to compete.
Like most people, Jeff Brown does not believe the rules apply to him. And we've made it very clear that all PACs and super PACs do reveal their donors.
Jeff. Mr. Dom, he mentioned your name. You've put $7 million of your own campaign, of your own money into this campaign. Sir, you're wealthy. Are you trying to buy this election, sir?
Not at all. Let me just say this. I grew up very modestly. 5 years old, I was shining shoes.
But you're not now, sir.
No, I'm not now. But I know the value of a dollar. I know the value of a dollar, and I've invested in my campaign because I love the city and I want to see the best for the city, and I'm not beholden to anyone. No one controls me. I'm totally independent. I will do what's best for this city, not just today, but in 5, 10, 15, and 20 years. That's my goal.
All right, Thomas Drayton.
I think most people would, they're concerned about the money that's in their bank account. So let's talk about the wage, city wage here. It's one of the highest in the country. We teeter between 1 and 2. Some have argued it deters businesses from crossing county lines. Should the lowest income workers pay the city wage tax? Mr. Green, Derek Green.
Well, one of the last things I did in City Council was reduce the wage tax for city residents and also for small businesses. And I did that by putting together a plan I called the Green Plan. Others also called it the Green Plan, which allowed us to reduce taxes for small business owners, for also city residents, but also provide more dollars to address the 31% real estate tax increase from the mayor, and provided more dollars for public safety issues. Those are the things that I did as a member of City Council, but we have an issue of poverty, and we've got to grow out of poverty, which is a real issue in the city of Philadelphia. And as someone who's drafted legislation, has worked in City Council, but also understands how the city operates and how we've got to move forward, because I've had a small business and I understand those issues. Unfortunately, not all the candidates have that same perspective. And for someone to say that the Independent Ethics Board, which is legislation I helped to draft, is a political hit job is ridiculous. It's an independent entity, and when they find a finding, normally they come out with the right decision.
All right, we're going to move on to Rebecca Reinhardt. As former city controller, you know budgets well.
Yes.
Day one, you have the marker. What do you cut?
Well, the first thing that I would do would be an operational thing, which is actually start to manage overtime. The thing is, and I was the city's budget director for 5 years, so I know the budget inside and out. The city is not managing well. It isn't about putting more dollars into the budget. In fact, the dollars have gone up by billions over the last 4 or 5 years with a decline in services. So what we need to do is operate this city better, and that's what I'll do. There's been talk on this stage about increasing police budget. Just for a point of reference, the fiscal 21 police budget was not cut. The mayor moved money to another department to fool the public. So that was not cut. And what I will say is this, that I can, on day one, cut money out of this budget by putting it towards services that actually function.
Any particular department?
Well, overtime management, sure. Overtime management, I estimated in my office at least $40 million a year can be saved like that just by managing it. There's many things like that across the city.
Thank you. Sherelle Parker, according to the Center City Retail Report, 20% of Center City storefronts have closed. What would you do to entice businesses and also to convince the workers to come back?
Implement my neighborhood safety, comprehensive neighborhood safety and community policing plan. If we want to grow Philadelphia's economy, we have to make sure that we are safer and that we are cleaner. Other people who are standing here on this stage now, and it's a lot of people, and everything may sound the same, but instead of simply listening to what people say, I want you to check out what they've done and use that as an indicator of what they will do in the future. How did I know that we needed to keep neighborhood commercial corridors safe? Because we couldn't afford vacancy? Because Center City District, Paul Levy, made sure that it was somebody's job to clean Center City. We needed to do the same thing in neighborhoods. I created PHLTCB to get it done. We needed to support neighborhood-based small businesses. I partnered with the Community College of Philadelphia to create Power Up Your Business. It's now the chief feeder for Goldman Sachs' 10,000 small business program. Don't listen to what I say. Check out what I've done and watch what I'll do for the future.
Thank you.
Next question is for Helen Gim. Helen, you've described Philadelphia as a city that impoverishes its own people and that everything has to be different. There's been a lot of finger pointing on why Philadelphia is the poorest big city in America. What or who do you blame?
Well, I think that there's a whole system of antiquated politics and other powerful interests that have kept far too many Philadelphians down. I've made it very clear that Philadelphia is not a city full of poor people. It's a city that keeps its people poor. And that's because we underfund our schools. It's because we talk about all the candidates up here who are talking about slashing taxes while also promising to improve city services. And the question is, how are they being honest? And who are they lying to? Are they lying to businesses or to voters? Because when I talk about investments, I'm looking at how people actually live to make sure that all of our budgets change so it goes directly into neighborhoods and communities all across the city. We're talking about the fact that we can turn things around with a $10 billion plan to actually modernize every school. We can provide guaranteed employment to young people in neighborhoods that are hardest hit by violence. We should be cleaning up communities, cleaning, greening, and brightening them every single time. And we should be delivering mental health and support.
Thank you very much. Sheba.
Last question in the money round. We don't have the time. Moving on to Alan. Alan, as a council member, you focused on tax refunds for low-income workers. How are you going to improve the life of a Philadelphian who gets paid the minimum wage, may rely on public transportation, and has their kids in Philly schools? How are you going to improve their life?
Well, number one, we need to get more jobs in the city that are better paying jobs. From 2009 to 2018, all jobs created in the United States that paid less than $35,000, the percentage was 29%. In Philadelphia, the percentage was 60.5. We were double the average. And when you look at the facts, our 20 largest employers, only 3 are private sector: Comcast, American Airlines, and Allied Security. But also, we need to adjust our taxation policies. New York City's taxes, local and state, for a business are 16.2. Philadelphia is 15.9. The third highest is California at 8.8, and everyone else is below us. I did pass a wage tax bill because we did the research. And the research showed, of the top 50 cities in the United States, we were taxing lower-income people the highest at 18.1%. Everyone else was 10 to 14. So we passed the wage tax bill, supported by my colleagues on council, that reimbursed 60,000 families, 200,000 people, a good portion of their wage taxes.
All right, thank you very much, folks. 90 minutes has flown by. We're on our last minute of our program here. Let's lighten it up a little bit. Just going to ask you a toughie here, and I'm going to ask each candidate in a row to tell us which Philadelphia team is going to have a parade down Broad Street next, and will you, as mayor, grease the polls? Ms. Sherelle Parker first.
The Eagles will make it, we will win, and I will grease the polls.
You will, okay. Does, Mr. Brown, does greasing the polls work?
I'm Mr. Green.
I'm sorry,
Mr.
Green.
Brown.
Different colors.
Definitely different color. Also different ethics as well.
Okay. Okay. Will you? Who wins the next championship?
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Okay.
And I actually did talk about greasing the polls.
I think the Eagles, but the Sixers have a chance, and I'd grease the polls.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Definitely the Eagles.
Okay.
Greasing the polls seems like a Philly tradition at this point.
I know. Mr. Dom, anybody for the Phillies?
I'm hoping for the Phillies. Yes, I am.
All right. Helen Gim?
I want a 2-header with the Phillies and the Eagles.
Not the Sixers.
We'll see.
Mr. Amen Brown?
Definitely the Eagles.
That's all the time we have, guys. Thanks to Temple. Thanks to the candidates.